It was a bitterly cold evening when the call came through to the local police department. A driver had reported something strange, a car parked on a deserted stretch of road for hours, its engine still running, headlights cutting through the darkness. At first, the officers thought it was a simple case of a broken-down vehicle, maybe someone waiting for roadside assistance. But when they arrived, what they saw made their stomachs tighten. The car, a grey sedan, sat completely still under the dim glow of a flickering streetlight. Inside was a woman. She was alone, sitting in the driver's seat, both hands gripping the steering wheel so tightly her knuckles were white. Her face was pale, her eyes locked straight ahead as if staring at something far away. She didn't react when the officers approached. She didn't even blink. They tapped on the window, expecting her to roll it down, but she didn't move. Not a word. Not a single sign of acknowledgement. The engine hummed softly, the heater blowing warm air around her, yet she sat perfectly still, almost statuesque. It wasn't fear they saw on her face, it was something else, something harder to define. It was calm, but an unnatural kind of calm, the kind that made the hairs on the back of your neck stand up. Minutes passed, and still, she didn't respond. No words, no gestures. Just that same empty stare. By now, more units had arrived. Flashing red and blue lights painted the quiet road, but even then, she didn't flinch. It was as if the world outside her car didn't exist anymore. That was when the officers realized this wasn't a breakdown or a medical emergency. Something was terribly wrong, and whatever it was, they were about to uncover it. As soon as the officers broke the glass and unlocked the door, the woman didn't resist. She let them pull her out of the car like she had been expecting it all along. Her body was tense, but there was no fight in her, no screams, no questions. She stood silently as if the cold air didn't even touch her. For a moment, the officers thought maybe she was in shock. But then one of them looked inside the car, and froze. In the backseat, hidden under a blanket that was once white but now soaked in deep red stains, was the body of a man. His skin was pale, almost grey, and his lifeless eyes stared up at the roof of the car. The smell of iron hung heavy in the air, mixing with the faint scent of gasoline. It was a sight no one on that roadside could forget. The silence became heavier. The woman, later identified as Laura Bennett, didn't even look at the body. She didn't cry or try to explain. She just stood there, calm and empty, as if all of this meant nothing to her. When they checked his ID, the man was revealed to be Daniel Parker, a successful businessman from another city, hundreds of miles away from his home. There were no signs of forced entry on the car, no shattered glass except for the one police broke, and no clear indication of a struggle inside the vehicle. At that moment, the questions multiplied. Who was this man? Why was he dead in Laura's car? And why was Laura sitting there for hours, waiting, when she could have driven away? Whatever the story was, it wasn't going to be simple. This was the beginning of something much darker than anyone imagined. Detectives wasted no time digging into the strange connection between Laura Bennett and Daniel Parker. On paper, they couldn't have been more different. Laura was a 32-year-old elementary school teacher, a mother of two, and someone with no history of trouble. She had a quiet life, a modest home, and no criminal record. Daniel Parker, on the other hand, was a 40-year-old corporate executive, wealthy, married, and living in a city hundreds of miles away. There was no obvious reason their paths should have crossed. But when investigators checked Laura's phone, the first cracks in her story began to appear. There were dozens of text messages between her and Daniel, messages that started out friendly but quickly turned strange. At first, they discussed simple things like work and hobbies. Then the tone shifted. Daniel started sending her money, large amounts, through online transfers. Thousands of dollars over a few weeks. The messages hinted at something more than friendship. Phrases like asterisk, you owe me asterisk and asterisk, don't make me do this asterisk painted a darker picture. Laura never asked for the money, but she didn't refuse it either. Detectives began to wonder, was she being paid for something? Or was Daniel threatening her? Digging deeper into Daniel's life only raised more questions. He had a spotless public image, but in private, there were whispers about shady business deals and dangerous associates. Still, nothing connected him to Laura, until they uncovered a final chilling message from Laura to Daniel, asterisk, I'll meet you tonight. Just don't hurt them. Asterisk. Those words changed everything. Who was she protecting? And why did she believe Daniel had the power to hurt someone she loved? Whatever happened inside that car was starting to look less like an accident and more like the result of a terrifying secret. When investigators finally sat Laura down in the interrogation room, the silence ended. Her voice was steady, but her words were like ice. She admitted she had gone to meet Daniel that night because he left her no choice. According to her, Daniel had something on her, photos she didn't know existed, images that could ruin her marriage and destroy her family. He threatened to send them to her husband if she didn't do exactly what he wanted. Laura claimed the situation escalated that evening. She said Daniel wasn't there for money. He wanted her. But that wasn't all, he made a chilling demand. He told her that if she didn't leave with him, he would hurt her children. That was the moment, she said, everything changed. Laura told detectives that Daniel became aggressive when she tried to walk away. He grabbed her arm, pulled her back toward the car, and told her she had no choice. In a panic, she reached for something, anything, to defend herself. Her fingers wrapped around a tire iron in the backseat, and she swung. The blow landed hard. Daniel collapsed, blood pooling on the seat. It sounded like a desperate act of survival. But the investigators weren't convinced. Something about her calmness didn't match the story of a terrified mother. And then came the evidence that shattered her version of events, the toxicology report. Daniel had a massive amount of sedatives in his system, enough to render him unconscious long before any struggle. Laura's story about self-defense suddenly fell apart. If Daniel was already drugged, how could he have attacked her? The picture was changing. This wasn't an impulsive act of fear. It looked like a plan, one that Laura had been preparing long before that night. The search of Laura's home turned the case upside down. In the basement, behind boxes of old toys and holiday decorations, detectives found a locked chest. Inside was a collection of items that sent a chill through the entire investigative team: driver's licenses, credit cards, and personal belongings of multiple men. All of them were wealthy, all of them missing, and all of them last seen in different states. This was no panicked mother who killed in self-defense. Laura Bennett had been living a double life. She targeted men through social media, portraying herself as vulnerable and in need of help. She would earn their trust, then their sympathy, and finally their money. When they became too demanding or started asking questions, she silenced them permanently. Daniel Parker was supposed to be her latest victim, but something went wrong. Evidence suggested she had poisoned him before their meeting. The plan was simple: meet him, let the drugs work, and make his death look like a heart attack. But Daniel didn't die immediately. He collapsed in her car, and instead of running or calling for help, Laura froze. She sat there for hours, staring into the darkness, maybe thinking about her next move, or maybe realizing there was no way out this time. When confronted with the evidence, Laura gave no explanation. She didn't admit to the other men, didn't deny it either. Her face remained cold and expressionless, the same way it looked when officers first saw her in that car. Laura Bennett was charged with multiple counts of murder, fraud, and kidnapping. To this day, no one knows why she stayed there with Daniel's body, waiting for the inevitable. Some believe she wanted to be caught. Others think she simply ran out of lies. Whatever the reason, her silence remains the darkest part of the story.